Now, the benefit of that hard-medium strategy is that when you then take the medium tyre at the end of the race, you've got good grip, you've got a bit of a tyre advantage, and that's where he was able to really show what the car was able to do. What happened to Lewis in Q2 that meant that he didn't get through to Q3? Well, the underlying problem in Miami was that we just weren't quick enough. So there were a number of cars that are normally behind us on a single lap that were actually giving us some trouble. So that's the first thing. But in terms of how we ran the session, well, we were looking at a balance between going late and trying to get the track evolution, which means that we put quicker times in, but also going early, where you probably get a better chance of a clear out lap, and also there's a lower risk of being caught by a yellow flag or a red flag. Now, when we decided to go, what happened was a few cars left ahead of us. They then meant it difficult for Lewis to do the out lap that he actually wanted, to get the tyres up to temperature, and that meant he was struggling, in particular in the first sector. The lap time wasn't good enough to get through. So we'll review the timing of that, because we could have undoubtedly done a better job giving him a clear track and getting that right balance between the risk of yellows and also the track evolution. But fundamentally, I said the main thing we need to focus on is getting a faster car. Had Lewis pitted a few laps earlier, would he have been able to get within 5 seconds of Sainz and take advantage of the time penalty that Sainz was given? Well, when we were positioning Lewis's stop, what we were looking to do was to get an undercut on Esteban. Now, the tricky bit was that the window behind had traffic in it, and where we dropped him, he already had to get past Valtteri, make a very quick pass on track, and put his car in a position where if Esteban stopped, he'd drop behind him. So we've looked at the positioning. We couldn't have really improved it by much over what we did. Lewis lost too much time in traffic early on to have had any chance of getting within that 5 seconds, even though he was passing the cars. Fundamentally, those trains early on are always quite costly. So we think it was pretty close to optimum. Why did Lewis let George past and not fight him? Well, we'd asked Lewis to let George go because they were in different races. Lewis was on the hard-medium strategy, George was on the medium-hard. They weren't forecast to finish together, but ultimately it gave us a better chance of a result with George if Lewis was happy just to let him go. Now, fundamentally, we haven't got the car that we want. We haven't got a car at the moment that can challenge for championships, and both drivers are working hard to try and achieve that. So whether it's you see them cooperating on track, or we see them cooperating in the office, trying to solve problems, trying to share information that helps us to develop, it is really useful that the two of them are focused on getting our car to a level where we can fight for wins, can fight for championships, and not worrying too much now about the fight between themselves. How did Lewis's pace increase drastically in the second stint? Well, the car had good race pace. The issue was in the first stint, when he was on the hard tyre, he spent most of the time in traffic. You saw he was able to make some key passes through that stint. But when you're sat behind other cars, you tend to do a bit more damage to the tyres, you get a bit more degradation. And when he actually got some clear air towards the end of that, the tyres are not at his best. Now, the benefit of that hard-medium strategy is that when you then take the medium tyre at the end of the race, you've got good grip, you've got a bit of a tyre advantage, and that's where he was able to really show what the car was able to do, what he could do, and made a number of really key passes. He came out on that final stint in 11th place, was able to get us up to 6th place, which is some really useful points for the team. Realistically, what should we expect from Imola updates? Well, if we go all the way back to Bahrain test, Bahrain race, that was where we realised that we didn't have a package that was going to allow us to fight for a world championship. And if we continued on that same development direction, we wouldn't end up in a position where we felt we could challenge Red Bull. So it was around that time that we took some decisions on how we develop the car, how the car works aerodynamically, how we shape the characteristics of the car. So how it is in terms of handling. What we are going to be bringing to the track in Imola is the first step really of that work. So this takes quite a long time to develop in the wind tunnel. You can't just do these things overnight. But the Imola package are the first steps in that direction. Now we're hoping to bring other updates later in the year. We do hope that it's quicker. We hope it's better in terms of qualifying and race pace. But as I said, the key thing is we're not just looking to bring a lap time update. We're looking to head off in a different development direction, one that we think gives us a better chance in the long term of being able to challenge for race wins and world championships.